Financial services account for about a tenth, I think, of Switzerland's economy. So perhaps comes as no surprise that the country, as we've been hearing from the local government earlier today, is very keen to make sure that it's well positioned for the future of finance as well. With that in mind, I'd like to invite our next speaker to the stage. He is the CEO of Swisscom Blockchain, Daniel Haudenschild.
Brilliant. So thank you very much, and welcome to Zug. It's my hometown. I live here. It's the first time that I got to actually just walk down the street and go to work. So I'm very happy about that. I'm also extremely excited at the volume and the size. And if you think back a couple of years ago and you look at what the Crypto Valley Association is now and what it's done, it's absolutely fantastic to focus energy and concentration in what is extremely collaborative field, blockchain. So at Swisscom, as Switzerland's telecom giant, obviously we have some mottos. One of them is do, don't talk. Right, and I think that's kind of what I want to be up here, and the messages that we want to talk to you about today. Right, so we've been very busy doing in Swisscom Blockchain's short history, and some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that we're working on is one of the biggest problems with ICOs at the moment and raising capital through them is the ability to get a bank account afterwards, and some of the biggest challenges with that is obviously having a KYC and AML done. Right, KYC and AML aren't guidelines, they're laws, and falling foul of them obviously creates significant challenges. So one of the things that we work with is an ERC20 launchpad. We're now also offering a Stellar Lumens launchpad in the same way, and we'll be soon working with an EP5, the NEO token, for launching ICOs in different protocols. From that, what we've done is we've baked in the ICO framework of the same KYC, digital identity services, anti-money laundering, PEP check, reg check, trace to origin, trace to genesis, Bitcoin and Ethereum. The same stuff that we do for the larger Swiss banks like Credit Suisse, UBS, and others, we've now made that service available to the ICO world. We've then taken that dossier that comes out of proper done KYC and AML and brought that to several different banks in Switzerland and one in Liechtenstein. And we said, what does good look like? And what do you need from us to ensure that an ICO entrepreneur can quickly turn around, raise funds into a bank account and start operating in fiat in Switzerland, right? And so that service is available. We've also built, obviously, a relatively robust platform as Swisscom that's very attack resilient against DDoS attacks, phishing site, and whatever else. So if you'd like information about that, please come visit us at our stand. We think it's one of the most secure ways to bring ICOs into Switzerland and to make sure that they don't wander off for lack of having a bank account. Another thing that we've been working on very hard is, wait till the slide here materializes. We've realized that in a lot of our corporate customers that there's a knowledge gap, yeah? And that although people may have heard of blockchains, they've come to seminars like this and they get kind of touched and feeled and introduced into the blockchain space. But there's no place that you can say, okay, well, so how do I evaluate a business case in blockchain? How can I look at the use cases? How do I create a proof of concept? What am I trying to prove? How do I assemble a proof inventory that I can then get sponsorship around? What are consortia? How do I build one? And then ultimately taking that down and saying one thing further, how do I then start to code what do smart contracts look like? So we've created a training and certification program. We're working with different universities to put this on a master's level and a PhD level, including EPFL, ETH, HSG, as well as some international schools. And we've created 2 tracks of education, one in the business view, which goes into the different industry applications, including pharma, banking, and insurance, and commodity trading. And the second track for developers, which allows you to explore different blockchains, right? So at Swisscom, we're running Ethereum, NEO, Corda, and several other blockchains, and we have detailed courses on the differences and advantages of each one of those, but also then in specifically those courses. So please, if you're interested in training and education, come by. And I think that the next piece is actually very interesting, although it's not listening to my power here. The next piece is what we see is a very big proliferation of companies wanting to store crypto and digital asset properties on site. Right, so this is a picture of a hardware secure module. We work with several different companies and have several different solutions, from the small on-site, on-premise, redundant backup, to the industrial scale, multi-data center, Faraday cage, HSM. What's interesting is that in January we couldn't give these things away, and now they're kind of moving out the door like buttered croissants. And that's interesting because everybody seems to be getting ready for September, right? So now if all these, and primarily they're small wealth and asset managers, primarily they're small hedge funds, primarily they're small investment companies and capital groups that are getting ready to store crypto professionally on site, offer that to their ultra high net worth customers, but also for their own investments in different ICOs. Right? So what are we seeing in this space is that it's gone beyond the ledger dongle, it's gone beyond your hardware secure module that you keep at home, but this is now the professional industrial scale of this, right? Now that's an interesting development because if you think about it, for an asset management company, having, let's say, bought Bitcoin at $100 and now seeing it at close to 7,000, what happens in that space, right? If you're not actively trading, that's a currency appreciation. Currency appreciation is increasing the asset class. It doesn't necessarily go over your P&L. Okay, so you don't pay income tax or capital gains taxes in Switzerland on currency appreciation, right? Now, that is extremely interesting, right? And if you look at the alternatives, you see in other spaces that that's kind of not available anywhere near the curve in Bitcoin. Yes, it's come down a bit since December, but let's not forget that 2 years ago it was almost 700, right? Now it's 7,000. That's still quite nice, and it's still much better than you can get anywhere else. We're also seeing a proliferation in the tokenization of assets, from gold to diamonds to artworks to buckets of metal, and linking those physically to assets and having those backed, right? And I think that also proliferates in, well, what's easier, an ETF where I got to call my banker and the ETF takes most of the fund or most of the fees and most of the reward for my investment, or an asset-backed currency where I can buy oil as an ERC20 token, or perhaps even currency like Swiss francs as an ERC20 token, right? And we're seeing companies now kind of saying, well, we're comfortable with this. Actually, we understand the volatility, we understand the cryptology behind it, and we're ready to jump in the space. And these are not like small, new companies that have been around for the last 6 months. These are 100-year-old Swiss banks, right? That are saying we're ready to go. Now, what they're also saying is we're kind of nervous about hosting our crypto assets with other places because we don't really know who's listening, right? And we heard that several times, is that like, well, look, we saw what happened with FATCA, and the Americans came over and they kind of watched the space for a while, and then they said, we have a list. And on this list, we have a bunch of names. And we know you have a list, and on that list, you also have a bunch of names, right? And then they say, show us your list, please, otherwise take withholding tax, right? And that's a scary prospect, right? Now, if you then there decide to say, okay, I'm going to host with my digital secure property with another company, even if you can get over the fact that those companies are charging really horrendous fees as far as account opening, and then custody fees, and then every trade has a fee on it as well. If you can get over that fact, then you still have to remember, like, I don't know what that company needs to report or what it's reporting on the assets that it's stored, right? So we're seeing these on-premise hardware modules become extremely attractive, and really kind of this for us. I mean, for me, it says one thing: buy Bitcoin, because everybody seems to be getting ready for the fall, right? So we also see quite a lot that what's happening is that the companies are preparing to store Bitcoins, or if they're preparing to store crypto assets and digital properties, then obviously they're probably also going to buy. You always balance it a bit out with two or three of the top currencies, right? So we see that probably towards the end of this year, there will be an appreciation in some of the major cryptocurrencies, and therefore also the hodl feeling that people are kind of hold on for dear life, that's actually kind of stagnating the ICO market, is one of the things that we probably see here dissipating, right? Now, yesterday at 10 o'clock, this slide had a typo in it. It says, don't think, talk. They corrected it, thank God. All right, that's really happened. Thank God somebody caught it, right? But that's what was up there before. But this is very much our spirit, right? I mean, Swisscom is a massive infrastructure provider in Switzerland and beyond. It's a strategic direction for Swisscom to be in the blockchain space, and therefore we want to introduce new projects. We want to share our infrastructure strength and the Swiss factor of being able to safely store and provide infrastructure services to the blockchain community, and that's why we're very excited to be here. But in the motto of don't talk, do, what I'd like to show you is one of the most exciting projects that we've come across in a long while, this is, perhaps, okay, we know that shape, right? But this one is Sonocoin, and Sonocoin is a cryptocurrency that's transmittable by a WAV file. Yeah? And I'd like to introduce Vlad, the CTO of Sonocoin, to come out here and talk a little bit about what they're doing in the Sonocoin space, and give you some examples of what we're doing. But first, we're just going to show a quick video, hopefully with some sound, around what Sonocoin is and what it does, and then you can get an idea a little bit of the applications.
Sonocoin is the first audible cryptocurrency. Mobile phones, computers, televisions, tablets, and anything else functioning with speakers is compatible with Sonocoin's audible transactions. Jack loves listening to the radio. While listening to an advertisement, he receives 10 Sonocoins to use toward his next purchase at his local supermarket. Jack wakes up every morning and picks up a coffee on his way into the office. Sonocoin's QR code feature enables quick and secure transactions between Jack and the coffee shop with the click of a button. The API connects Sonocoin to virtually any service provider and payment terminal. But as he leaves the coffee shop, Jack forgets his phone on the table. No need to worry, because Jack has safely backed up his Sonocoins on a secure cloud service, allowing him to recover his funds on his new phone. Online games keeps Jack up all night. Now he and his friends can transact across any platform seamlessly thanks to Sonocoin's .wave format. It's as easy as sending a music file. Now fast forward to the near future. While streaming an online video, an advertisement shows up on his screen. And seconds later, Jack and his friends have registered 5 Sonocoins on their devices. This will be possible with Sonocoin's ultrasonic frequency transactions, not heard by the human ear. Jack lives in the city and uses public transport to avoid traffic jams. Sonocoin's NFC contactless payment solution will be perfect for on-the-go ticket purchases. And the best thing about it, most credit cards and payment terminals are already compatible. Sonocoin is more than audible. It's perfect for anyone, in any situation, within any environment. Sonocoin, the cryptocurrency you can hear.
Brilliant.
Hello, my name is Vlad. I'm a CTO of Sonocoin project. What is it, Sonocoin? Sonocoin is a technology of future, where we can send our money by sounds, by audio file, QR code, and other ways. Today, we need your feedback to understand in which way we need to create new positions and do technology more better. We have cards on our stage, Swisscom Sonocoin cards for present. For 20, yeah? Each card for 20 Sonocoins. And we start our back bounty program and invite all of them to participate in this program and find new ways to understand what is it. Sorry about my English. Yeah? So if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer for it on the stage, and I will be here all day. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
So So Vlad is very much from the Do camp, and he, the technology is actually quite impressive. So we have over 100 cards here with QR codes on the back. They'll be available at the Swisscom stand. Each one has 20 Sonocoins on it. There are 5 cards that have 500 Sonocoins on them. You can download the program onto your Android phone, or if you register, you can download it also over the iOS App Store. So that's and the ramifications of this is quite amazing, right? So I could buy everybody in here in the stadium a beer today, right? Just right now by playing an inaudible file that reaches your coin, right? Or your phone and your app. That's an amazing kind of break in technology. I'm going to buy everybody a beer here because we're hosting the party tonight at 10 o'clock after the cruise. So please do come by. It's not going to be with Sonocoin, but it still should be very good. It's at the Bossard Arena or GG6. But the other applications that we have with Sonocoin, if you imagine that Pokemon was actually just a test, right? And when you go out and you find your next Pokemon hiding behind a corner, it squeals, it lets off a sound, and it pays you. If you imagine movie theaters, and when you're sitting in the movie theater before the show starts, to sit there and actually get there early so that you can receive some Sonocoins. If you imagine pay-per-view as a whole new definition, that you're actually being paid to view. If you imagine trainings, that we have to do for compliance and other things within a company, you can actually reward people individually for those. Augmented reality, virtual reality have a lot of applications in this space too, as well as gaming, events, and concerts, right? So for us, Sonocoin was an extremely interesting venture and something that we are very excited to be part of. The program is new, and we are looking for applications, so that's when you register, please give us feedback or give Sonocoin team feedback. On the other side, we're running a bug bounty program on the protocol where we're asking hackers to come and explore and try to break it, because we want this to be one of the most strongest secure crypto. I was speaking with Vlad outside just before the event, and the next step of the protocol that they're working on is that you can actually transmit sounds up to 30 miles without having any internet or anything in between, right? So that's something that they're working on as far as an evolution of what the coin could do, right? But if you start thinking about how manual sound is and how often we can use it and interface into different devices, I think you get kind of in a picture of where we are going with that. So in the Don't Talk Do camp as well, what we see is on the market a really strong appreciation for how hard it is to do an ICO. And I think what was around in 2016 when we did our first one, and now in 2017 through the kind of Valley of Tears after the price fall, we realized that the ICO mechanisms have matured significantly. The prices have gone up, the legal fees have gone up, the ability to then safely receive coin and turn it into a bank account has become more challenging. And certainly, how do you get traffic to your site has changed substantially. It used to be enough that you could get mentioned on Coinbase, pay a few Bitcoins, and you would repeat the article, you get 10,000 links onto your page, and that traffic was enough. At the moment, that's not what we see happening. Right? Since the hold on for dear life kind of challenge has come towards a cryptocurrency, people aren't investing enough, right? And so that also needs to change, right? Hold on for dear life is actually impacting the ICO world quite drastically. But we also see it as a maturity because we run about 5 or 6 ICOs a month, right, over our platforms. And we also see it as maturity of the market in general, right? People aren't being lured in to things that of, sort of dubious nature where a white paper was enough, or a good team was enough, or technical people, or the technology was enough, right? Now you need really more, and you need all of those things, and then you also need to build a community, right? We're seeing a lot of bot traffic, on some of the community building sites, which we find hard to understand. We've got 40,000 people on our community site, and yet we're still struggling to meet our soft cap, right? So that replication of the bot doesn't necessarily give you good traffic and good content, right? So if you are looking at an ICO, right, what you need to do is choose carefully and the timing of when you want to do it. But also what you need to do is you need to understand what kind of partners can you get in order to get that traffic to get under the eyeballs and to get into the minds of the people around you, right? And that are impacted by your ICO. That's probably one of the most difficult things at the moment, right? Because we are awash in different types of tokens, and we have a lot of different types of tokens that come from different sources, and it's difficult sometimes to feel which one of these are going to be successful and which ones are not. We see an awful lot of different types of suggestions and tokens at all different kinds of stages of maturity, but we also have kind of now worked with a lot of partners in order to bring the process into a more stable, with a more predictable results. Right. So for us, one of the kind of top leading indicators is, try to get your soft cap before you go into outside of the friends, family, and fool round, right? Go into the community sales round and try to do something with that by having already achieved the significant fundraising, right? That kind of changes the perspective of what the ICO is there to do, but it also significantly reduces the risk that you're not going to make it and then have to backtrack from statements that are made. What we also see is then, if you're working on a utility token, right, FINMA will take a judgment on the utility token at issuance, right? So that's an interesting term, issuance. Well, that means when it's publicly traded or it's available to trade. Now, you can lock a contract down so that you can have a relatively large community, but it's still not an issued coin, right? So you can do fundraising before FINMA actually takes a judgment if you have a utility token. And if it's just access to a platform, right, then you can get that access and the utility token out there before you actually get that assessment from FINMA, right? Now, and then you have a utility token, and we work with several utility tokens at the moment. You need to have a platform that's blockchain-based, and this is the other kind of big mistake that we see in the blockchain space at the moment. We see companies going in there, and they don't have anything there yet. Right? So they do an awful lot of development in the market and the communities and things. And then when it comes to say, oh God, we need to actually have something live in the blockchain, that's where they start saving money, right? And now our recommendation is that's almost the opposite of what you need to do. You need to take a solid core foundation of something that works and then build out on it, and then build a community and get them interested in what you actually have working technologically, right? And that's the type of companies that we see are much more successful. And in this case, with Sonocoin, right, the coin is issued, it's minted, it works, it functions, it does the payment methods that it can do. The one that's still being worked on right now is the broadcast one, where we can actually broadcast it to a crowd of people, and they can receive it and then receive the coins. But that is as an example of the things that actually come together where you have a very strong core and you have the technical resources there, right? Other companies choose to sort of do Hail Mary programming, where you kind of in the last 20 days before you've promised your community that something's going to be available to interact with, you throw about 100 programmers at it and you try to code something out. Now, we've had some companies that have asked us for help in situations like that, and we're happy to help in situations like that, but that's not how you generate an enthusiasm that lasts for a long term. That's how you actually open yourself up to an awful lot of criticism, and you basically have to dig yourself out from that, right? So our strong suggestion is build around a technical core, right? It shouldn't be Bob's shoe shop is now on the blockchain and we're going to raise $100 million, right? That's not necessarily what a utility token is there for. It has to be a new function that's not previously available in the blockchain space, allowing people to do something that they can't do because of blockchain, and there's a token behind it that gives you access to that platform, right? And in that sense, right, that's kind of what good looks like in the ICO space at the moment, right? So we also have, again, the tokenization of assets, right? Now, when you look at different tokenization of assets, there's two things for us that are the most important critical functions of that. One is, what is the legal tie that I have between my token that can be traded and the document? We've seen some incredibly creative aspects, right? But that's exactly where companies ran into challenges because they had the asset backing was audited, but it wasn't consistently there, right? And we can name those examples, but we probably shouldn't, right? So the link between the asset and the underlying asset and the token is extremely important, right? If you're talking about a property token, what is the link between the property and the token? What rights do you have as a token because you're buying an asset? If you're talking about a basket of metals, what is the digital document that ties you and gives you the bearer rights to having a token? If you're talking about gold, right? Are you actually physically owning a piece of gold that's audited with the warehouse behind it? And where is that enforcement? Is it a bearer bond? If I walk into a room of the corporate headquarters of this company that's guaranteeing the asset, do I have a bearer bond where they would pay me the cash equivalent minus storage and handling for the token I walked in the door with, or give me the gold, right? And those are the type of questions that we see in the asset space as being the absolute fundamental. And then it becomes a question of reputation, right? Who do we trust, right? Well, if we have the biggest gold trading company in the world, right, and it happens to be in Switzerland, and they issue an asset coin that's backed in gold, right? Well, okay, that's pretty good, right? And therefore, and because you can kind of see that with the jurisdiction of Switzerland as a legal framework, right? That gives you recourse into the law to claim if that company doesn't back up, and you trust the reputation of those companies, and you still look for an independent audit of the actual warehouse. If you then start to look at the other end of the spectrum, it's El Dorado, a gold mine, not a gold asset. It's not auditable. It's auditable because the gold's still in the ground. But trust me, then this kind of goes back into the Wild West days of early USA 1860s, where people were trying to sell each other gold mines or the Brooklyn Bridge, right? And so that link between the asset token and what's the underlying asset and what rights do you have to call on that underlying asset are probably going to be the strongest things that you have in the future. And that's where the concentration should be. If you're thinking about making an asset coin, that's where the believability needs to come in. If you're thinking about investing in an asset coin, that's what you need to look for as far as what, do you trust the reputation of the company that's issuing, that they actually have the asset that's behind it. We can help, obviously, with any of those different items. And in the last couple of minutes that I have left, I'd like to tell you, one of the reasons why is Swisscom even in the blockchain space? Well, okay, so, proof of work, best consensus mechanism out there, right? Nobody can fool the Bitcoin blockchain. It just requires too much calculation power to try to trick it. And 10 minutes later, you got to do it all over again. That's really hard, right? Even if everything's in China and not in Australia or wherever it needs to be, right? But the other thing is that, okay, that you're limited there, right? You're limited to change the protocol. It's hard enough to get the block size from 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte. You have challenges. So, and especially in the private permissioned world, you need to trust, you have this kind of paradox where you need to trust the central authority in a decentralized ledger technology, right? So how are you going to get these two worlds together? Well, one way is you could obviously come to Swisscom and say, we'll give you our infrastructure and you please host it and become a validator node. We'll work on a proof of authority, and because you're Swisscom, we trust you, right? We're 51% state-owned. It's pretty good, but it's not good enough, right? For some of the companies that we work with that are in commodity trading business, where you have every transaction is millions of dollars, and you have a requirement for absolute secrecy and privacy, you want to have more. So we said, okay, well, look, we're one 51% state-owned company that can provide tier 4 infrastructure at 99% availability to ISO 9001 banking degree standards. And we can spread that over across our data centers. But if Swisscom, for some reason, gets sold or goes bankrupt or some other thing, then that might not be good enough. So maybe if we open up and build a virtual private cloud between multiple state-owned Swiss government organizations that have the ability to, provide this ultra-secure infrastructure, that would even be safer. Because if, from one day to the next day, Swisscom disappears from the world, the blockchain wouldn't be interrupted, right? And that's something that we're actively working on. We hope to have some success to talk about in the fall. And that would mean essentially that we have a trust triangle in Switzerland where we could do proof of stake, proof of reputation, proof of authority blockchains in hosted core. And that's become extremely exciting for some of the global blockchains who would like us to play validator nodes when they're not working on a proof of stake consensus mechanism. And it's also become exciting for different parts of the world. For example, the land registry in the Philippines would like to put one of their nodes into this trust center because they know the entire, Manila could be eaten up by the ground, and they still would have a complete copy of the land registry of the Philippines, right? And so for those trust services, Switzerland is an internationally trusted brand, and within Switzerland, we also have the infrastructure to do some of the heavy lifting. So I hope in that time, there's a couple things that stuck. In any case, in the motto of don't talk, do, I'm gonna say thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be at the stand for the rest of the day. I'm at the STIC jury this afternoon, but I'll be also at the party tonight and at the stand all day tomorrow. So if you would like to talk to us about anything you heard today, or have any more questions about us or Sonocoin or some of the other projects we're working on, please feel free to come by. And I hope you really enjoy this event and are as excited to be here as I am. Thank you.